Hi guys, I'm going to explain to you why discomfort is a superpower. You're probably in a certain role right now in whatever industry you're in, and you're enjoying it and you're doing decently maybe. You might be respected to some degree, but work is work and you hate having to sell your time at the end of the day. And I understand that, and I think most human beings understand that. As a Christian though, I do want to make the distinction that I believe that God calls us to work, and therefore when I'm working in a job, I try to work as if I'm working for God, and I try to prioritize being a righteous man and doing my work diligently and completing tasks to the best of my ability when I can. That's the way that I view it. But the thing is, in society, obviously we know that, some people might not know this, but most people, I think, are starting to realize that we're sort of being lied to by about a lot of things. The media tells us that black is red and white is gray. The healthcare system tries to tell us that we need this medication to solve this issue, but then you take the medication and you basically experience a range of different issues that you then have to medicate by the prescription of the medical system again. And it's a never-ending spiral of prescription drugs, confusion, and I guess financial constraint, right? So when you're in your job and you're doing work for a company and you're trying to get better and you're trying to become more respected, if you're doing work that you dislike, in terms of you find that it is a bane on your existence, it's actually detracting from your health and well-being. And you have to be careful. You have to be very careful when you make that distinction, because work is work and it's going to suck. It has its ups and downs, but there are some jobs which particularly will cause a declining in your health and well-being and detract from the person that you could be and should be as ordained by God, okay, as created by God. So the way that most people cope with being in a job that is not fit for them, let's just make it like that, because a lot of jobs, you can work hard and you might not enjoy all of the aspects of it, but you're still working hard, you're still working diligently and working as if you're working for God, right? He's at the top of the hierarchy. You may be doing all of that, but you find that this is a role that does detract from your health and well-being, and it doesn't seem like the right fit logically, right? Because do not base this decision on your emotions and this analysis. Do not base it on the way that you feel. You probably won't be passionate about the job that you want to do, but there's some jobs which are a better fit for what you are trying to do or what you're trying to become. Do you want to be a high testosterone masculine individual and you want to absolutely maximize your respect, and in doing so you therefore deduce that you need to maximize your hormonal health, your mental clarity, your energy levels, and so on? Well, then you might find that you're not a good fit for an office position. Now that's based on pure logic. Sure, you go to the office, you do your work, it kind of sucks because you're selling your time, but you're working, you're doing what God expects of you. So that's all good and well. But logically, you can analyze it. If I want to become this man, then this job is just not the right fit for me. If you do figure that out, whatever your goals, whatever you want to become, and you can logically make that distinction, and you can do so while disregarding the way that you feel about the situation, and you do come to a logical conclusion, then you'll find that it'll be very hard to stay in that position if you are not distracting yourself. And this is why discomfort is a superpower. If you're in a position where you find that you're not a good fit for the position or with whatever you're doing in life, if you then go and spend your time scrolling and you spend your time drinking and partying and doing drugs, watching Netflix and so on, you will be distracting yourself from the discomfort. And it's almost like a downward spiral, because then you're spiking your dopamine artificially, And then you're going to come to work, you're going to be less energetic, less focused, and then you're going to, by the end of the week, maybe be less impressed by your own ability, and then therefore you compensate by indulging further in these bad habits, and it becomes like a downward spiral. So it's important to force yourself into that discomfort to make sure you're doing the right thing. Because if you're a good fit for a position and you don't want to go to work on Monday like most people, but you do so anyway because you disregard how you feel and logically you should work, God expects you to work, you need money, you need finances. So you go to work, you do what you're supposed to do, and you have eliminated all of these distractions and indulgences, and you find that logically you are still becoming the man that you want to be. And although you don't feel like this is what you want to be doing, logically, based on where you can see yourself being in the future, this is right, then you're good. Then you're completely fine. But I think many people will find that if you're completely uncomfortable and you don't have a way to distract yourself, then that will be a superpower in the sense that it will drive you with a whole lot of energy to go and change your situation. It's almost like, say you have a river flowing, okay? Flowing, and it flows through a culvert or a pipe. And you start, say the culvert has an intersection that diverts into two different pipes or something, right? If you start blocking off pipes and holes, all that pressure will build up, okay? And if you don't do anything, eventually it's just gonna explode, right? It's just, something's gonna break. But if you let this pressure build up and then create a new path, that water is gonna charge straight through with all that accumulated energy, straight through that new path that you've created. So if you use that discomfort, you can sort of bottle yourself in this discomfort, just bottle yourself in, and logically deduce where you want to go, form a path, write it down, do whatever you need to do, jot it down, make sure that you're understanding it. Like, you might not be able to think fast enough and accurately enough to make this decision just all based in your head in a few minutes. I found that I've had great success in writing down what I'm thinking, because then it gives me more time to analyze what I've thought. So I recommend writing this down purely based on logic. Try to disregard how you feel about things. Purely based on logic, what is the best next course of action that you can take to get to where you want to be? And that's the very first step, I believe, is finding where you want to be. What do you want to be? What kind of man or woman do you want to be? What do you want to have? How do you want to be providing for the people around you? What do you want your relationships to be like? Where would you want to live? Doesn't matter. Figure all that out and then rank it in based on priority, so you know what is most important, because that's purely logic right there. It's not emotional. It's not, don't choose what you feel like doing now. Purely based on logic, what should you prioritize now? What is the next step? What is most important in terms, it could be 5 years away. What is most important? What do I need to have in 5 years' time to deem myself successful? Once you have that path and you've eliminated all the discomfort, so you're not distracting yourself, believe me, just scrolling and watching YouTube videos or going on TikTok and things like that, it spikes your dopamine more than you believe, honestly. Like, I might not, scientifically, like I can go into how much it spikes your dopamine, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm more so trying to say, forget about the dopamine. What I meant by that is that it distracts you more than you think. Just scrolling for a little bit, it bombards your mind with all of these barrages of different ideas, and your mind cannot focus on what you need to be focusing on. It is not logical to go and scroll, ever. It's just not logical. The only time that's logical is if you want to make yourself feel good, which is probably illogical based on where you want to be headed, right? So do not scroll. If you need a piece of information, search for it specifically. This is exactly what I need. I'm going to search for it. Don't sit and scroll and let the algorithm dumb you down and just force all these random ideas on you, because your brain only has so much capacity. Once you fill it up with too much, the thoughts and everything that you've progressively obtained over a certain period of time, you want all of the important stuff to move from your short-term memory into your long-term. You want it stored. You want to be constantly thinking about where you want to go. If you're sitting there distracting yourself, your mind's going to find things more entertaining than your goals, and it's going to start saving and disregarding what is important, and then saving junk sometimes. So yeah, eliminate the distractions, have your goal, and then that pressure will build up so much. And in all honesty, for me, I remember, I'll give you guys an example. I was in an office role in a great company, and it was a great graduate role. A lot of people probably would have liked to have that role. And it was at a tier 1 company. And I felt that I was respected being in that, even as a graduate. That was just based on what I could see. But what happened was, I was working there for a while, and I realized, look, I'm basically sitting on my seat all day. I'm staring at a screen. I'm getting virtually no sunlight. So my testosterone's going to tank. Even if I go to the gym, it's not optimized. It's not as good as it should be, especially while I'm young. And I started to realize these things. And then this was sort of unrelated, but I decided, all right, I'm going to just stop with my phone, basically. I wanted to stop using my devices, essentially. So I go to my mate who's just in the room over, and I'm like, hey bro, I want you to lock all my devices. I want you to have the password. And he was like, what? You want me to lock all your devices, bro? Are you crazy? And I was like, yeah, bro, I want you to lock it. If anything happens, if any of my devices are lost, it's worth it to me, this experiment that I'm doing. So please, bro. And he was a legend, and he did so. And I basically had no access to my devices. And this was for like 1 week. 1 week, okay? This is not a long time. It was literally like it was probably like overall maybe 2 weeks, but in 1 week, I'm gonna explain to you the change that happened. In 1 week, I'm like, cool, for day 1, what do I do? I've just finished work, what in the world am I supposed to do right now? And I was trying to plan my goals. I found myself writing down things in a book with a pen, obviously, much more. And I was writing down what I wanted, and I realized, I want a bit more information in this area. So what would I do? I would literally walk myself to the library, and I even had issues trying to get access to the computers in that library because I didn't have a phone on me. So I couldn't use it to verify like my Gmail account and everything. I could access the computer, but I couldn't access important things like emails. But I was committed. So I just carried on. And yeah, I got a little bit of information that I needed. I was having great difficulty though. So I ended up starting to read a bunch more. I started to read on different industries, and I basically found a different path that I wanted to take. And it was more, it coincided more with having a high testosterone lifestyle and becoming a better man in terms of what I deem as a good man, in terms of what I wanted, okay? And yeah, all that pressure started to build up. And in 1 week, I remember right before I left on a trip to Greece, right after that week, left on a trip to Greece. And that week though, it changed my thinking so much. I remember there was one morning I was just strolling around in like some random courtyard outside the library, just sitting, like I was like walking around and sitting down and just looking around like, this sucks. This is not where I want to be. Yeah, society's telling me this is a decent role, and the starting salary is not bad, have great career progression, I'm around really respected people and so on. And I sat there, I'm like, no, without all the distraction and everything, I can see clearly this sucks. And that was a catalyst for a future decision, which I made after a trip, which I took to Greece. And so that was like, say, the week prior to Greece or 2 weeks prior to Greece. I go on my trip to Greece and enjoy myself and everything. But the whole time in the back of my head, I'm like, when I get back, this has to be sorted. This has to be sorted. That sucked so bad that week. And yeah, it turns out, and by the way, I brought my laptop and everything. I unlocked it to bring to Greece. But I actually left my phone. I was so used to not using it after like a week or two that I left it in the car. So I didn't have my phone. That was completely by accident. And I ended up not really using devices over the whole trip of Greece, which I'm very thankful for. But yeah, it was crazy. And then I get back from Greece. The whole time I was praying, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have to. That's how much of a burden it became in my life. That those 1 or 2 weeks of clarity made me realize how much of a burden it was to be in the wrong place. Not where I want to be, because I'm not heading where I want to go. And yeah, so I get back and literally, I got back. I had like the weekend to get ready for Monday. Monday, I get to the role and I'm feeling higher testosterone now because I haven't been in an office for like a month straight. I've just been in Greece with my shirt off, enjoying the sun, going to the gym a bit, eating pretty good. I get back. Day one, I'm like in my head, I'm like, all right, we're going to quit at some point, right? We haven't got a backup plan. We haven't got a job lined up, but we're going to quit at some point. And I start, walking around the office and sitting, greeting people. Yeah, my whole holiday was good, thanks. Yeah. Sit down, start doing work. And I was like, yeah, nah, this is not it. We knew it wasn't it. I go out to lunch and I'm like, all right, yeah, so we're going to quit at some point. When are we going to quit? Where am I going to go from here? Because this isn't it. And during that lunch break, I was so convinced this is not where I wanted to be that that was the day back from Greece. I walked into the office from the lunch break and said to my manager, hey, can I have a word with you quickly? And I resigned. Boom. That first day back, I had pretty much no backup plan. I suppose the testosterone helped me to take a bigger risk. And God did sort me out. I'm not saying that was a good decision. I'm not saying to base yourself on how you felt, because that's how I felt in the moment. I felt like quitting. I was like, yeah, this isn't it for me. That was not necessarily a good decision, but I want to make it clear that those 2 weeks without a phone had such an impact, right? It's such an impact. Literally after a whole holiday to Greece, right? 2 weeks, no devices or whatever. Holiday to Greece. Still I get back and I was convinced that's how much of an impact it had on me. So there you go. Discomfort is a superpower. Everything seemed, I don't want to speak too much on my current situation, but I believe that in terms of where I wanted to head, it was relatively logical about considering where I ended up. Maybe there could have been some better decision making there. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I do not regret quitting. I do regret acting on my emotions, not because it necessarily led me to the wrong place, but just because I don't like to do that. We want to act on logic always. So quitting on day one without a backup plan is not logical. So there you go. That's why discomfort is a superpower. Hopefully that was helpful. All the best. Jesus Christ is Lord. God bless.